On this episode of Noteworthy Chatter, I had an opportunity to talk to George Tarrant, who's worked behind the scenes on some Hollywood classics. I hope that you'll be motivated by our conversation. Hello, Mr. Tarrant. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so glad that you decided to take some time to sit down and talk to me about your amazing career and what you're doing now. So, I want to tell the people a little bit about you. And so, today on Noteworthy Chatter, I am interviewing George Tarrant. He's a Dallas-born filmmaker with more than 25 years behind the scene experience. While studying at the University of North Texas, he co-founded the Cooperative of Black Filmmakers, an organization that helps students go from talking about making film to actually making them. Since George's career has zigzagged from small indie sets to also big budget Hollywood productions, he has credits on films like Hoodlum. I have a funny story about Hoodlum. Soul Food, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, the Oscar winning American Beauty, Men of Honor, one of my favorite movies, Notorious, and Faster. He also worked as a staff writer on Showtime's Barbershop, the actual series. In 2013, George leveled up to associate producer on the Sundance hit The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete. Most recently, George produced and directed a short film, The Last Laugh, for Seattle, Washington's 20th anniversary of the 48-hour film project. Wow. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Tarrant. I'm just glad to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm excited to talk to you. I'm a fan of your podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm looking at these credits and I'm wondering like how what you're from Dallas because a lot of people think that you have to live in LA or New York, to make it in the film industry. Can you give us a little insight on how you started in the film industry? You said you graduated from Skyline High School, and then after that, what happened that brought you to Hollywood?
Yeah, I wanna back up a little bit before that and just say, um, working in movies is something I've wanted literally since I was a little kid. And so once I decided that, I remember actually going to my parents at 8 years old and basically announcing to them that I wanted to be a movie producer. And from that moment forward, I turned my attention to that as much as I could. And I would read, everything I could get my hands on about the process of making movies. And um, when I got to high school age, I found out that Skyline High School in Dallas offered a cinematography cluster. And so I was like, I have to go there. And it was a very good program. We actually started with photography, like actually making a camera with a shoebox and developing the film in the liquid baths. And then eventually we got to get our hands on 16 millimeter cameras, and we actually got to physically uh, scrape the emulsion off of the film and basically glue it together and conform it with the soundtrack and the whole nine. And it was fascinating. And what was, it was a trip is that, I graduated from high school in 88. And then in the years that followed, like the technology just changed uh, really fast. But that was my start. And I continued, pursuing that when I went to college.
And so when I look at your credits and in your film, what was the first film that you did that you received a credit for?
The first film that I received a credit for was it's now called painted hero. Uh, the original title was called Half a Dog's Life, and Dwight Yoakam was the star, and he played this guy with like kind of a troubled background. He had left home and he was returning back after 7 years, which is what the original title kind of referenced, Half a Dog's Life, 7 years. And then he becomes a rodeo clown. So yeah, that was the first credit I got, the first on-screen film credit. I was a driver on that film, and it was my job uh, to take the film that was shot for that day and rush it to the airport where they could fly it to the lab, which was out in New York. The producers were from New York, and we were shooting in Denton, Texas. And so, after the magazines were done, I would take the film canisters and I would go to the airport so that they could fly them out.
That's amazing. I know you and I chatted previously and you talked about getting your foot in the door. What was the way that you used to actually get your foot in the door to be able to work on some of the films that you've worked on in Hollywood?
Okay, so you know the saying everyone says about the business is not what you know, it's who you know.
Mhm.
And back in Dallas, I did not know anyone personally that was in the film industry. And I did a kind of a couple things to try to make some contacts. Number one, um, I got an internship, and I was an intern at the Dallas Fort Worth Regional Film Commission, and this was of course, the film office when any production would come to town or any local company was shooting something in town. They would reach out to this office for different resources. Sometimes it was for crew members, or sometimes it was for location folders. That was one of my tasks. I would go to locations and I would shoot a panoramic shot of different locations that people would offer as places to film. And of course, this was before smartphones, and so I would literally have to like take a camera, pick a point, and then turn my body slightly to pick the next point, and then I would develop the prints and then tape them together to make a panoramic shot uh, in a manila folder. That was our location folders. And so I was able to make contacts with some local companies that were shooting commercials in Dallas. And then also I linked up with some very good friends, brothers that have become lifelong friends. And we formed an organization called the Cooperative of Black Filmmakers. And so we teamed up and we started making contacts together to try to create some opportunities.
That's amazing. And so, how long were you in? Because I know you did take a break, and we can talk about that a little bit because we're all at a stage where sometimes you take a break and you come back to it. Um, at what point in your, what was it you did? The last thing was the Barbershop series, or no, it was 2013. Was that the last time in terms of being out in Hollywood that you worked in the film industry and you took a break? Or can you kind of take us through that?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because, you know, in my mind, uh, I felt like I've never taken a break, but just practically speaking, the last time I was on a film set prior to this year was 2012, and it was on the set of the inevitable defeat of Mr. and Pete, which was shot in New York. Um, and basically, I'll just say, um, you know, when you have a family, you have to provide. And in a lot of instances where I was working on films, it was a freelance situation. And so that's a funny word, freelance. Um, but I had young kids, married and everything, and so I, as I've often said, I needed to get a grown man job with benefits,
Yeah.
and to be able to, better provide for my family. And eventually, that translated into moving away from LA, so we could have better support. Um, and I have to be honest, that was a struggle for me. I had no idea what I was going to do, um, what kind of work I was going to find, because Seattle at that time didn't like really strike me, um, uh, in terms of like great opportunity, working in film. I mean, not to say that there weren't productions happening here. I just didn't know how to insert myself into that scene, but I did try.
And you said something just really important that most people need to kind of remember when we are pursuing things that aren't paying the bills, right? It's okay to go get a job. It's okay to take care of your family while you pursue what it is that you love. And so that's just a really important point to make. And also you said something important. You said in my mind I didn't take a break. And I think that's because most creatives, all the stories, all the characters, all the things, they still talk to you in your mind. And it doesn't feel like you've taken a break from it. So my next question would be, what inspired you to return to filmmaking after you had, taken that break and had to have a grown man job, like you said? What inspired you to return after those years, and how does it feel re-entering the field?
You know, I've always had like specific dreams and goals that I've set for myself, working in the business. And I've had a lot of wonderful opportunities working on different productions and working with different people. And, you know, a, a milestone for me was being able to work on, you know, take that knowledge and experience and put it into projects of my own that I, wrote, originated, created. And I still have those goals for myself. And I'll just say organically with some of the jobs I've had in Seattle, in unexpected ways, I just happened to call upon my film experience to do different projects in my day job. I'm also currently handling the live stream for the church that I attend, and I'm using skills that I learned in college that I never expected to be using again. And so it's been really great to be able to have these opportunities without knowing that they were coming. And now that my kids are older, they're both in their early 20s. Naturally, my mind is like turning back to like, okay, what can I do to like re-engage with this business that I love?
But what kind of changes, stepping out and coming back in, what were the kind of significant changes that you noticed in filmmaking today as opposed to back when you started?
As far as is making a film, like it's it's the same. I mean, some of the tools are different. The cameras now are like amazing compared to what we were using back when we got started. Uh, yeah, there's just a lot you can do with resources that are not as expensive as what we started with. But essentially, whether you're working on a short film to a big budget Hollywood film, there's a certain part of the process that is just the same.
That's important to know because now it's like you can pull out your iPhone and some people are pulling out their iPhone and making entire films. How do you reconnect and network and get back into that industry? I was talking to you earlier about just trying to connect with people to get into the film industry. I'm working on that in Houston. But what would you give, what kind of advice would you give people that, maybe don't know how to do that?
A few things I can say about that. And number one, I'll just say it's all about relationships. Um, Even though I moved from LA many years ago, like I've kept in touch uh, with the core group of friends, and that's been kind of vital to me, to somehow like be away from the business is done my heart good to be able to just have my friends that are still working in and around the industry and to not only like connect on the basis of our friendship, but also like hear like some of the things that they're working on and some of the experiences that they are having. Also say that in doing this 48-hour film project, I didn't know many people here in Seattle. I didn't have like immediate people I could call and say, hey, I'm doing this film project. Do you want to come aboard? And one thing I did is I reached out to people cold on LinkedIn, and eventually, not all of our crew, but some of our crew came from me just sending a message to a stranger like, hey, I see that you've done this in the past. I'm looking to join a team or form a team of my own. Like, would you be interested in having a conversation? And that's kind of like how it started.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hard part, having the nerve sometimes to reach out to strangers. And that's motivating to people that who that haven't done that. So tell us a little bit about The Last Laugh. Let me make sure that's the name of it, right? The Last Laugh, right?
That's the
Tell
name
us a
of it.
little bit,
Yeah.
yeah, tell us a little bit about that film and the award that you won.
Yeah. So I want to say for those who may not be familiar with the 48-hour film project, this is something that
Mhm.
has been going on for a long time, and it's a worldwide competition. A lot of major cities across the world have this, and they do this at uh, sometimes multiple times within a year. And basically, what happens is you register a team, and when you go to film weekend, it starts on a Friday, and you get a prompt. You get three prompts. You get uh, a character, a prop, and a line of dialogue. And then you randomly draw two genres of what your film can be. And you can either do one or you can do a mashup of both. And your goal is to create a 4 to 7 minute film maximum within the 48 hours of that weekend. So you start on a Friday night and you end on a Sunday night.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah. So our project, The Last Laugh, we drew uh, Film de Femme, which basically that's a women's film, a film that centers women characters in their stories. And so we had a prop of a red balloon. We had a line of dialogue. I think I can swing that. And then our character was a street performer named Madeline or Mads, and that's what we went with. Our story follows Mads Nutting, who is she's working in a bar, but she really has this dream of being a stand-up comic. And so one night she's sitting there at the bar and she's looking at this bro comedian who's doing his thing, and he's kind of telling these misogynistic jokes. And then afterwards, he comes up to her to order a drink, they have a little funny interchange, and it just like bothers her so much she decides tonight's going to be the night that I go for my dream. And so she goes for it, and then something happens, and then we kind of explore the results of that.
That's amazing. So I have to go and look into that, but that's good advice for young filmmakers coming up to look up the 48 hour, what is it? The 48-hour
48-hour
film.
film project. Yeah.
Yes, so
And
that
I
is
wanted to add, so we won the award for the best use of the dialogue. I think I can swing that.
okay. That's amazing. So you still got it. So what are you looking forward to working on in the future? Do you see yourself going back to Hollywood and working in big Hollywood productions, or do you see yourself staying in Seattle and making that work for you?
Uh, I'm looking at both. I'm
Mhm.
here for the time being, and so I'm definitely gonna be pursuing other opportunities to do things like 48-hour film project. I'm actually planning to work on another one in a different capacity. This go round, I was the team lead, and so I was the producer and the director. This next go round, I'm going to be a writer, which is kind of the heart of my love for filmmaking. Like it all starts with the script, with writing, and so I'm looking to jump back into that specific aspect and beyond. Uh, yeah, I'm looking to go from a project like this, and I'm still dreaming of having my own feature length project.
And I'm sure that will happen. That leads me to my next question, legacy. What do you want, or what can you see, or what do you envision your legacy of film being when you're gone?
Mm. That's a great question, and I think about like different films that have like personally impacted me, and I want to have that legacy of being able to connect to people through film and create work that entertains, that encourages, and that enlightens people about the human condition.
Excellent, excellent. So if I'm a young filmmaker or an old filmmaker like myself, and and
We'll
you
say
had
a mature filmmaker.
mature, a seasoned, um,
Seasoned. That's a
a
good one.
seasoned, if you had some motivating words or encouraging or inspiring words to give or advice for someone trying to break into the industry right now, what would it be?
I would say if you have any hesitation, any misgivings, don't count yourself out before you count yourself in. Um, I also want to say to stay open to possibility. We all have specific ideas about the way we want our careers to go, and sometimes you're presented with something that looks a little different, and that's not to say that it doesn't have uh, the same value or even more. Like it could take you down a road that is just beyond like what you could imagine, and that's happened for me a number of times in what I'll call my journey. Also, I'm a big believer in the cold call. Um, don't be afraid to hear the word no. If the worst thing you can hear is no, I can't help you, that's not that bad of a thing. Like it's just simply information. And I'm a firm believer that, the more no's you hear, that's getting you closer to the yes that's going to be the difference maker. Sometimes a no is a not right now, or sometimes the person that tells you no in a sense, they have a better idea of another avenue or another person that might be able to help you or wants to be a part of your vision. So you just have to stay open to that and just not allow yourself to get frustrated. Stick to your vision, and just know that there are going to be times where it feels like whatever you're trying to make happen, that it isn't going to happen. You just have to have the attitude that it will happen. And eventually it will. And sometimes it's in like very surprising ways that you could not have planned, better on your own.
Very good advice. Very good advice. Well, I can tell you that I am very impressed with your credits and the work that you've already done in Hollywood and what you're working on now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have in the future. So thank you for taking a moment and just chatting with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate having this conversation with you, and looking forward to sharing more.
Good. Best of luck in the future. Like they say in showbiz, break a leg. But I will be
That's right.
definitely following your career, and hopefully we'll get to come back here and talk again. Thank you.
Thank you.